Friends from the press, good afternoon. Welcome to the regular press conference of the Foreign Ministry. I will now release a piece of news. At the invitation of member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Babda Abdelati will visit China and co-chair the China-Egypt Foreign Minister Strategic Dialogue from December 12th to 13th. Now I would like to take your questions.
TASS, according to Russian media reports, Deputy Chairman of the Security Council of Russian Federation Medvedev came to China and started his visit today. Could you give us more details and what's China's expectation?
Chairman of the United Russia Party, Medvedev's visit is an important event of high-level exchange between China and Russia. He will meet with Chinese leaders. Relevant information will be released in due course. Next one, please. Beijing, Delhi. The Center for Strategic International Studies recently issued a report entitled China's Intelligence Footprint in Cuba, New Evidence and Implications for U.S. Security, saying there are 4 sites within Cuba that are most likely to be supporting China's efforts to collect intelligence on the U.S. and its neighbors, and suggesting that the U.S. and its regional partners should carefully monitor China's growing role in Cuba. With China's comment, I noted what you mentioned. As Cuban Deputy Foreign Minister Carlos Ferdinand de Castillo said, the U.S. think tank's accusations of so-called Chinese military bases in Cuba are just tales that do not exist and no one has seen. Let me stress again that China's cooperation with Cuba is done above board and does not target any third party. We certainly would not accept any deliberate verification and smear from any third party. It is widely known that the U.S. intelligence agencies have an egregious record in Latin America and the Caribbean. The U.S. unlawfully occupied Guantanamo Bay as its military bay and imposed blockade and sanctions against Cuba for over 6 decades, which has been catastrophic for the Cuban people. China once again urges the U.S. to follow the just call of the international community, lift the blockade and sanctions on Cuba as soon as possible, remove Cuba from the list of state sponsors of terrorism, and stop creating barriers that hinder Cuba's socioeconomic development. Next one, please.
FP, a senior security of
法新社今天台湾方面的人士告诉法新社，近日中国准备的军演是旨在给美国下一届政府画出红线。你对此有何评论？
I refer you to competent authorities on your specific questions. What I want to say is that it is the condolences of external forces that undermine the cross-strait peace and stability. Upholding one China principle is what we should do. We will continue to firmly uphold our sovereignty and territorial integrity. On the question you mentioned, Taiwan question is the first and foremost line that must not be crossed in our principles. Next one, please. Hubei Media. On December 10th,
Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs Jolie announced sanctions against Chinese officials for alleged human rights violations. Do you have any comment? In total disregard of facts, the Canadian government has smeared China under the pretext of human rights, imposed illegal sanctions on Chinese personnel, and interfered in China's internal affairs. This severely violates international law and basic norms of international relations. We firmly oppose and strongly condemn this. The Chinese government upholds a people-centered development philosophy, attaches high importance to respecting and protecting human rights, and strives for huge achievements in China's human rights development, making great contributions to world human rights cause. This is a simple fact that anyone without bias can see. Canada's track record in human rights has been deplorable. The indigenous people still face systemic racial discrimination and unfair treatment. Showing no repentance, Canada is busy mirroring other countries, spreading lies on China's alleged human rights issues. This is a typical move of thief crying "stop thief" to frame the innocent and expose themselves to international ridicule. Facts are the best way to expose Canada's double standard and hypocrisy. Canada is in no position to lecture others on human rights, and nor do they have any right to act as a judge and impose sanctions on others. China strongly urges Canada to reflect on itself, stop interfering in our internal affairs, stop undermining China's interest and image under the pretext of human rights, stop the political stunt, lift unlawful sanctions, and we will take measures necessary to defend our sovereignty, security, and development interests. Next question, please.
谢谢韩国新京社提问。据韩国媒体
According to ROK media reports, the newly appointed Chinese ambassador to the ROK has arrived in there. Do you have any comment?
I'd refer you to the official website of China's Foreign Ministry. Our position on China-ROK relationship is consistent. We're ready to work with the ROK to improve our relations. Next one, please.
China has approved no loans to Cambodia.
路透社今年中国没有再向柬埔寨批准任何贷款，而此前，中国是柬埔寨最大的债权国。你对此何评论？
具体问题建议向
I'd refer you to competent authorities for a specific question. What I can say is that China and Cambodia and our clad friend, we will continue to strengthen cooperation with Cambodia and help them improve their livelihood and promote development.
The United States said yesterday that it
法新社，美国称悬赏1000万元来抓捕一个在2020年进行黑客攻击的中国人士，并且还制裁了四川无声信息公司。你对此有何评论？
依法打击。
First, we firmly reject and crack down on cyber attacks, and we also reject any unilateral sanctions on Chinese personnel and long-arm jurisdiction. We urge the U.S. stop framing China and scapegoating China. China will take necessary measures to uphold Chinese personnel and organizations' legitimate rights and interests. Next one, please. Any other questions? CCTV. On December 10th, the U.S. Commerce Department, citing human rights violations, added 2 Chinese high-tech companies to its entity list. What's China's comment on this? The so-called sanctions you mentioned are blatant suppression of Chinese high-tech companies in the name of human rights. The move further reveals the U.S. true intention, which is depriving the Chinese people's right to development. The so-called human rights protection is just a pretext. Such tricks can never succeed. If the U.S. truly cared about human rights, it should have bridged its own human rights deficit first, rather than politicized human rights issues and used them as a tool to meddle in other countries' internal affairs and harm other countries' interests. Next one, please. Well, that will conclude today's press conference. Thank you.